Hello, welcome to Oddly Sunday for December 20th, and I say for December 20th because what I actually mean is that it's Tuesday and it's not the 20th at all. I must apologize. I did actually shoot the show on Sunday, but I discovered something about my monitor that I did not know before that, namely that when it goes into power save mode, the USB connections along the side of it, this is my this is a HP monitor, go down. They turn off. So I was in the middle of transferring my video files from an SD card, and boom, thing goes down, my files get corrupted, and they're gone, completely nuked. So this is actually retaping of the show, and I do apologize for being a couple of days late. What can I say? I'm on vacation. We got a little time off at the shop right now, which is really nice. But with the holidays and everything, people are heading back to see their families and so forth, and so that's kind of nice. So we were able to do that this time around. It doesn't always work out that way. So this is a show where we take a look at the stories that have gone up on the Oddly Studios website for the week, which generally have to do with some local events and some thoughts around the interactive industry that we're working in. And for this week, we have 3 stories, basically. So if you just jump into Oddly Studios and you go to the news section here, then you're going to see 3 things here. We're going to talk a little bit about online video consumption habits. So recently ComScore and Global Web Index both released some interesting figures around the way that video is being consumed these days. And so we have an article there to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about what makes for a compelling online video. And then we'll finish up by taking a look at a few local events that happen around Toronto this week that are pretty fun and interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on in Toronto over the last 2 weeks. So jumping into the first story here. I'd like to point out this image that's up on the article right now. So this was a slide that I shot a quick photo of while I was at Next Media. During Next Media, ComScore did a really good but very brief presentation. It's very hard to talk about all what they do in a short period of time, but I thought that this one slide captured one of the main points that they were bringing out. So if you look at it, you're going to see 2 lines here, light blue and a dark blue line, and this runs between the period of May 2008 and May 2009, so 1 year basically. And the light blue line you see here basically shows you the total minutes that people were spending online during the year. And you can see it holds fairly steady, right? Like there's a little bit of dip and rise in it, but overall an increase of 11%, so not a big deal. People aren't spending more time online than they were previously. But what is interesting is this other line here, the dark blue line, which shows a steady rise until by May 2009, we find that it's over half the time that people are spending online, and that blue line indicates their video viewing habits, right? So we see this steady progression upwards until over half of the time that people spend online actually is spent watching video, and I find that very interesting. I think it's a figure that people kind of can underestimate a little bit. For instance, after I saw this information, I talked to a lot of people, and what I found was that at first glance, they didn't really think that they were spending that much time watching video online, but we're all doing it. I think the reason we don't really realize it necessarily is because, when we think of watching video, we think of this, something that is up on a big screen and we sit back and we watch it. Something like television, or even video that you're routing from your computer to your screen, and we don't really think we're spending that much time doing it. But if you start to add up all the times you might view video during the week, if you looked at a Facebook video or a link that someone sent you or something on a blog somewhere or went to YouTube, it really starts to add up. Now we took these figures and we compared them with more figures that were released by a company called Global Web Index. Now, like ComScore, Global Web Index keeps track of trends that are happening online by looking at focused groups of people. And so some of what they show here isn't that surprising. Like, for instance, they show 72% of people watch video clips online. Not too surprising. That's on par for what ComScore is saying as well. Now, what I did find interesting from Global Web Index is that they also looked at some of the demographics of those people that are looking at videos, and what they found was that, yes, you do have 16 to 17-year-olds kind of leading the fray when it comes to not only watching but making videos. However, they found that even people 55 to 64 are pretty active in putting up videos and sharing them around, which is surprising. The content of the videos is all over the place, but what their findings seem to suggest is that video online, people are equally concerned, more concerned with it having like a local flavor, or that it be consumer generated rather than the traditional model. So you have companies like Hulu, for instance, that take a high quality television show and put it online. They're not getting any more views than you or I could get from just putting up video that we made on a blog. That's what people seem to come to the internet for. Only 8% of people in their findings had looked at video from Hulu. So now that is a pretty significant number still. And if you add up all the video consumption, you actually find the online video in less than 3 years has come to rival the traditional networks that have taken decades to get where they are in viewership, which is amazing and really says something about the power of the interactive medium of the internet. But moving on from that, they also looked at what people do to share videos. And I found that there were a few very interesting points that came out of that. Number one thing that they found was that it's a very, small group of people that share videos to a large group, but almost everyone shares video to 3 people or less. How do they do that? Well, of course, there's your dedicated sharing services. You got your YouTube and Facebook and social media and so forth. But they found that still the number one way that people share videos is email. A simple email, copy and pasting a video link into an email and sending it to 3 people or less is the way the video proliferates the most online. That could be surprising to us, and I think that we can sometimes forget some of these older, more accepted channels when we're planning on how to release our video. But that would be a mistake according to what Global Web Index is showing us. Pardon me. I think I'm coming down with a cold. This seems to happen every time I get a couple of days off, which isn't that often. It's like my body stores up all the germs, and then it knows when I've got some time off and says, all right, hit them. Let's do it now. Now's a good time. But it's not a good time. I want to have some fun. I'm hoping to go and visit my dad over the next couple of days. Haven't seen him for a while. He doesn't get into the city that often. All right, so if you'd like to look at the discussion and maybe add a comment, or you have any thoughts about what these figures mean, then do feel free to jump onto this site. The last thing that I wanted to point out is that as I was reviewing these numbers and hearing these presentations, it sounded very, very familiar to me. I was like, I'm sure that I've heard this kind of numbers listed off somewhere before. Well, a couple of days later, it came to me that when I was at GDC, Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, I took in a presentation from Konami. There's another post on the blog about that. But I went back into my materials from there and I found this slide, which talks about the habits of iPhone users.